Welcome to the Baby Playbook Podcast. It's so great to check in with you all. Thank you so much for listening. Of course, if you are loving the podcast or if you have any feedback, make sure you pop in a review on the platform that you are listening on, whether it's Spotify, whether it's Apple, whether it's YouTube. I'd love to hear from you, or you can chat with me on Instagram, of course. And any ideas that you have for guests or topics that you'd like us to cover, make sure you also shoot those through as well. Today is a special episode. I feel like I say every episode is special because it truly is. I get to speak to some of the most amazing people in all their different fields, and today is no different to that. I get to speak about a topic that I am very passionate about, making sure that we continue a conversation in constantly, and that is, of course, your mental health pre and postnatally, which can change. It can be really dynamic. It can really surprise you. It can creep up on you. How overwhelming the feelings of change and isolation can be, and sadness and confusion. There's a lot that goes on during this time, and some of it's hormonal, and some of it's burnout, and some of it's being overtired. But then some of it is, of course, a huge life change that is impacting you, and it's okay to seek help and admit that as well. So today I'm going to be speaking to the feel-good psychologist. Her name is Stephanie Alexander. She really has focused her practice on providing support, guidance, and therapeutic treatment to women during that perinatal stage of life. And she's really passionate about creating a safe space for women to explore the mental and emotional changes that come with being a parent. They're so vast and they can take many shapes and forms, and that's exactly what we're going to be talking about today. Thank you so much for your time today, Stephanie.
Thank you for having me.
Well, let's first talk through your own experience as well, and how things kind of went for you. You're a mum yourself, so you've not just kind of seen the psychologist side of this, but you've also experienced all these changes yourself and adjustment.
Yes, absolutely. Isn't becoming a parent wild? For me, in my first pregnancy, I experienced both pre and postnatal anxiety. So for me, prenatally, what that looked like was panic attacks, a lot of anxiety, sort of not wanting to leave the house. It was coupled with hyperemesis, and we do know that a byproduct of having hyperemesis can often lead to prenatal mental health struggles, and one of those is anxiety, and that's what I was experiencing. For me, it meant that I had to resign from my job. I really couldn't leave the house. I was so unwell, but I didn't want to. That then sort of fed into my postnatal experience, where I experienced anxiety again postnatally. For me, again, that looked like not really wanting to leave the house, not wanting anyone to really even touch my son, because I was just worried that anything could happen to him. I mean, it's that difference between our usual level of worry and this extreme level of worry that I was experiencing with him. I just had a complete lack of trust in anyone, and I didn't want to leave the house, my little safe space, my little bubble with myself, my husband, and my baby, and that's the only place I really wanted to be. Having experienced that as a psychologist, I think that I was able to quickly recognize what my symptoms were and work towards finding coping strategies pretty quickly. I think, though, for the majority of women, you don't know what to do.
And I was, one of those women as well that I was really overwhelmed with. I think the question for me constantly was, well, is this like normal? Because like you are tired and you are like overwhelmed, and you're also like burnt out, and you're thinking, oh, this will just kind of pass like as I survive all these different stages and regressions. But you can't really identify when it's like, oh, this is like past a point at which I think I can deal with this myself, or I think I'm okay with it.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think the lines are really blurred on this. I think what we can safely say is that everybody does experience a sense of overwhelm within this stage of life, but we don't really have any clarity, or the public doesn't have any clarity on where the limit actually lies with this. And I think something really important to do is to increase the amount we talk about this, because the more we know and the more we can understand what other people's experiences are, well, then we can actually learn, okay, this is a normal range for myself, but this is exceeding that. And we need to remember that everyone is different too.
Mm, that's true. And I wanted to ask you, because I think the thing that kind of made this is a bad thing to say, but like what made me feel better at the time was like, oh, I'm not alone in this. Not that you
Yeah,
wish anything bad upon anybody, but like
absolutely.
there's something about like struggling together that feels a
Mm,
little bit more comforting. So
mhm.
talk me through kind of like, yeah, is this much more common than we think? Obviously to different extents and levels, but it's nice to kind of get that picture of just how common and um, how intense it can be for so many people out there, because then you kind of feel a little bit normal.
Absolutely. Look, if we are looking at pre and postnatal depression and anxiety, we're looking at 1 in 5 mothers experiencing this within Australia. Something I want to highlight though is that's what's reported. So the real number is likely a lot higher than this because, as you said earlier, there's a lot of people just sort of thinking, okay, maybe this is normal. Everyone said it was going to be hard, and maybe this is what hard looks like. Um, my suspicion is the number is actually far greater. Absolutely, and look, women are at a greater risk during this perinatal period to experience anxiety and depression. So the likelihood is that there's more women sort of suffering in silence during this time than what we're actually aware of.
Yeah. So let's talk then and go back to our point we were just discussing of those red flags that you can look
Mm,
out for, where you can kind of go, okay, well, this is becoming just a little bit too um, repetitive. I guess I can't really get out of this rut. What are some things that we should be looking out for ourselves during this time, and maybe even something that we can flag with our partner or those that are closest to us?
absolutely. I think the overarching theme here is anything that is causing serious distress to your life, then that is something that needs to be addressed. If we want to go a little bit more specifically, if we're looking prenatally, persistent sadness or low mood, feeling overwhelmed and excessively worried, like I was, not really wanting to leave the house, losing interest in things that once actually really brought you joy, that shouldn't change.
Mm.
If there's something you enjoy doing, you should still enjoy doing that in pregnancy. Um, Serious trouble sleeping, and then feeling tired all the time. Now, keep in mind, we know pregnancy takes it out of us. This is to the extreme, okay? If you feel like difficulty bonding with your baby during pregnancy, now that one can be hard. You can't see the baby, but we can start building connection. If you feel a complete detachment, that might be something to be addressed. Feeling irritable, feeling on edge, severe appetite changes that aren't related to morning sickness or hyperemesis, and feeling feelings of guilt and hopelessness. Hopelessness is an extreme, right? That's something that we need to look out for. Postnatally, when you feel incredibly detached from your baby, you struggle to even create any sort of bond with them. Again, excessive worry, but then that worry on the baby, their health, their well-being, worry at every single stage that's beyond what should be expected. Because, of course, as a first-time parent, we have no idea what we're doing. But if that is excessive and taking over your entire life, again, overwhelm to the extreme, frequent crying for an extended period of time, feeling inadequate or as a failure as a mother, intense mood swings, really bad trouble concentrating. Again, with the sleeplessness, we all know sometimes concentrating is hard, but this is to the extreme. Anxiety and panic attacks, and then, of course, suicidal thoughts and thoughts of self harm. If you experience any of those in their extreme, get to your health practitioner, find yourself a perinatal psychologist, and get some help. There's nothing wrong with you. You just need a bit of support during that time, and that's okay.
Hmm. That's a really good thing to point out, and I think what's quite interesting about that as well is that just how broad it is, right? Is
Mm,
that like there could be a combo of those feelings. It could be only one of those feelings that's really feeling dominating. So I don't know if you agree here, Stephanie, but I feel like, and I'm about to ask you kind of if there's anything that we can do to prepare, or like some sort of preventative measures or something that we can kind of start, like a bit of a habit or something that could just help us navigate if in case these things come about. But one of those things could be that, you just start to speak to somebody, whether it be like a therapist or a psychologist, just for the sake of maybe this is becoming a bit of a worry for you. And even if it's on that like minimum level that you're feeling these feelings, look, I just feel like anybody can benefit from speaking to someone, like it's not like you're going to seek out help and it's not going to be in some form useful. That's just my opinion because I've used it before. I've used the services before and they've been really beneficial. So yeah, I guess I want to ask you, is there something that we can do preemptively to just help, or is it more just, I guess, like this, listening to this podcast and being informed?
I think that's one thing you can do. Knowledge is power, but at the same time, we do live in an age where knowledge is aplenty and it can be a little overwhelming. I am of the strong belief that, we look after our physical health. So why do we not also look after our mental health in the exact same way? And I firmly believe that anybody going on any sort of parenting journey, whatever that looks like, should engage with a mental health professional. It's not because there's something wrong. I think that's the misconception when you seek help from a psychologist, that I've got to have something severely wrong. I have to be diagnosed with something in order to validate seeing someone. That's not the case. And that's definitely not the case for a lot of the clients that I do see. It's for support. It's for learning how to communicate your emotions in a safe and secure environment. It's about feeling supported on a mental level. During pregnancy, we're so supported physically. Of course we are. Why not give ourselves that in the mental space as well? There are huge changes happening, not just to our body, but to our mind on this journey. Postnatally, think about it like this, Nicolina. On the day you give birth, it's like you've taken 100 birth control pills. On day 3, you've taken 0. That is the hormonal shift women's bodies go through. And I think colloquially that's been termed the baby blues. You get to about day 3, your milk comes in, all of a sudden you feel this wave of emotion. It's a lot bigger than just the baby blues. You're going through a huge, huge change. Something to look out for is if that remains persistent.
Yeah,
We should
that's
all
a
expect,
really good one to
we should all expect to experience it, absolutely, because that's what's going on with us hormonally. But if that persists and that doesn't lift, you feel at the dip of that for an extended period of time. It doesn't matter how long that is. Is it days? Is it a week? Is it 2? Is it a month? Are you uncomfortable? Speak to someone about it. There's no harm in that.
Yeah, there isn't. Another thing that we can do, I guess, to either prepare, but also just, during that time, feel a little bit more supported as well, is obviously leaning on your partner and your friends and family around you to an extent. I think I've spoken about this in the past of like not really having this expectation that like your partner's your therapist, because like, they're only qualified to do so much. So, but I did want to say, what are some things, I guess, or some conversations that we can have there where we can kind of either prepare them, or how can we have these open and honest conversations with them during, to say, hey, I'm feeling like this. I'm just letting you know. I'll let you know, like if let's check in a couple of days, and like just keeping that conversation going.
Absolutely. I think the best thing to do is start before you even think about starting a family. It is a lot harder to do, especially for us in that postpartum stage, to try and communicate ourselves accurately. I definitely know I struggled with that. My brain felt scrambled, especially the first time round, and the words that were coming out were just not matching what was going on. When I say before, I think obviously the pinnacle of a healthy relationship is good and strong communication. And that looks like talking about emotions, something that a lot of people aren't good at. And that's just because a lot of us were brought up in environments where speaking about your emotions was not the norm. So let's normalize it. we all have emotions, and emotions are good, whether they feel good or they don't. They actually teach us a lot about ourselves. And if we can give ourselves the opportunity to communicate those to another person in a safe space, when we get to creating our family, it's going to be a lot easier because you already feel confident to be able to have that conversation. Yeah. It's all about
Yeah.
consistency too. A conversation I have a lot in session is, okay, you're going to have a date night every week. And new parents look at me and they're like, no, we're not. That's literally not happening. And I said, okay, hang on. Let's change your idea of what a date night is, because I don't mean go to a super fancy restaurant and stay there for 3 hours. I don't mean that, because that's not realistic. I mean, either put Bub to bed or Bub sleeps next to you, depending on what stage you are, how old the baby is. You might be in the living room, they're sleeping next to you. Order your favourite takeout, sit at the table opposite each other and have a conversation. Yeah? Because I think, in that postpartum stage, we are eating when we can. We're not even talking to each other. We are so tired. We just couldn't possibly sitting at a table and having a conversation. Who's doing that? But make a point of it. Make a point of it every single week. And that's your opportunity to talk about how you're feeling, Instead of starting the conversation with, oh, how are you going? Yeah, how are you going? Which the answer is going to be, yeah, good. Yeah, good. Change the way you start the conversation. Ask, how are you feeling this week? Has anything overwhelmed you? Is there anything I can help with more? And that sort of goes both ways, right? Because we need to be a team. Because babies don't get raised by themselves. And I think mothers who are doing it on their own, you absolute super women, that is amazing. You have a partner there, though. You're doing this together. And it very much needs to be that joint effort. So we need to be checking in on each other's mental health.
Yeah, certainly. So I really love that idea as well of setting up and setting your expectations low for date night, first of all.
Oh, yes, they don't look the same.
Yes. And then also, setting that expectation that you should have constant communication, and not just talking about, another conversation about whether you should try a different formula or this or that, or talking actually about yourselves and taking that time and that moment to check in on each other, I think is vital.
That's
So
the
then
exact point. Yeah.
if we do move on to actually seeking some help, so, you have identified that, you're feeling off and you do feel like you need to speak to somebody, what do we do from that point on? I know, I've spoken in previous episodes as well about, unfortunately, I found it's slightly difficult with the waiting lists on seeing a psychologist and all that sort of stuff. I loved the Panda support service that's available in Australia. I think that's just a genius organization. But yeah, just give us some practical ideas on what's even the first step to take there.
Absolutely. I think do your research and shop around. Type in perinatal psychologist in your area, but a lot also obviously do virtual appointments too. So expand your search. Yes, our wait times, they're long. They're long. I absolutely agree. And we're definitely doing the best we can, but there's obviously a high volume of people that are needing this service. So yes, Panda's a great one to consider, because there's a lot of different resources on there that can, I think, also help you decipher whether this has gone beyond the point of this normal, and just give yourself a little bit of insight on what's going on there. You can speak to Beyond Blue. There is the Gidget Foundation as well, that have resources there. Speaking to your GP, if you've got a good GP that you feel comfortable with and confident to speak to, they can often help point you in the right direction if you are just feeling too overwhelmed by it, doing that search yourself. But I do believe that finding a perinatal psychologist is what is going to help you feel the most supported on this journey, right next to building your own personal support network. whatever that looks like. And everyone's looks really, really different. Someone's may be family, someone's may be just a group of friends, and another mum's might be, a mum's group that she went out and found. Having a support network that works for you is incredibly important as well.
Yeah, awesome. One thing I'm going to spring on you as well, Stephanie, and I hope that that's okay, is I wanted to ask you, because I found this a little bit difficult before I had kids. And even now, like, even though I know so much and like I experienced so many feelings myself, as a friend, I find it difficult to like formulate a text or like say the sentence to a friend where I am checking in on them, where it's not just that like, hope everything's okay and like, how are you going? If you need any help, let me know. Do you have any advice on like how we can really check in, where it's like, I want to know you're okay, if there's is anything feeling like, how should we, like, even if you right now write the text message for us, what's something that we can keep in the back of our mind for all of our friends and family who also we should be checking in on during this time?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, that's actually such a good question. I think as well, before you have kids, you're actually completely lost in that space. And then once you do have kids, you're kind of overwhelmed yourself wanting to reach out to those friends. I think be a little forward. Like, what's your favorite meal? Cook it and drop it over. I think this is what I'm talking about when I say support. You need people that are happy to just do the thing for you rather than ask you what that thing might be. As parents, we often experience decision fatigue. We're making decisions all day, every day. So if somebody's messaging you and saying, hey, what can I help with? Most of the time you look at that and think, I don't actually even know. I've made so many decisions today, I couldn't even tell you what I needed help with. Make the decision for them. Do you know that, maybe making them dinner is going to be something super helpful? Make it, drop it round. Sometimes even just leave it on the porch and walk away and send them a text and say, hey, just grab that when you get a second. Yeah? Go round and just actually help. Clean the kitchen. Put some clothes away. Chuck a load of washing on. I think something that can be a misconception is somebody has a new baby, so I'll just go around and hold that baby for them. That's not what new mums want. New mums want to hold their baby. We need that connection, that baby is a part of us and we want them on us. What we need is somebody to just do the dishes real quick because I've not had a chance to put this baby down. Can somebody just do a load of washing? Can somebody just get dinner started? I think in that sense, if you've got the capability of doing so for your friends, do something. I know it's something that I appreciated so much. My girlfriends came over and cleaned my fridge out. And I know I was saying, oh no, don't worry about it. They literally said, yeah, no, we'll see you this day. And you're not helping. They made me sit down and just order them what's staying, what's going. That was the most beautiful gift anyone could have given me. And look, if you don't have the ability to do that, send like a meal voucher, send an Uber Eats voucher, send a dinner ladies voucher, send a HelloFresh box, send something like that. They're the things that are helpful because it's the day-to-day that was normal before children that falls after children. So if you can help with that, help.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for those tips, Stephanie. It's really good to chat through it. It's really good to just get, the straight answers that you need from this particular topic. Of course, if anything has come up in this particular conversation that, resonates with you and you are looking for help, you can always call Lifeline on 13 11 14, but in an emergency, always dial 000. Stephanie, it's so great to have you on the podcast, and thank you so much for sharing so much insight.
Thank you so much for having me, and thank you for shining a light on mental health during this stage. We need to keep this conversation going.